Michael was 42 when he lost his job. He had worked in the same warehouse for over 20 years. No resume, no degree, no backup plan. Just 2 kids, a mortgage, and a heart full of fear. The first few weeks were heavy with silence, heavy with doubt. He stopped smiling, even at his kids. He felt like his value had disappeared with his employee badge. But one afternoon, something shifted. While picking up his daughter from school, he saw a poster. Every expert was once a beginner. He stood there staring, maybe too long. That night he sat down with his old laptop, typed how to learn coding at 40. The results overwhelmed him, but he bookmarked 1 page, just 1. He studied every night after dinner, sometimes until 2 a.m. He failed tests, broke projects, wanted to quit, but he didn't, not this time. After a year, he built his first website, then a client, then 2, then 10. 3 years later, he opened his own small software agency. Michael doesn't work in a warehouse anymore, but he still wakes up at 6 a.m., not because he has to, but because he loves what he does. He tells his kids every day, "Don't let the world tell you when your story ends, because sometimes rock bottom is just the solid ground you need to build again." Eli never liked running. Too slow, too tired, too self-conscious. But after a tough breakup, everything felt heavy. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. One night, it started raining. He walked outside, no umbrella, no destination. He ended up at the park, and something made him run. Just 1 lap, soaked and breathless. But for a moment, he felt free. The next night he ran again, not far, but enough. His body ached, his heart too, but the rain made it bearable. He started going every night, even when it didn't rain, even when it hurt. He didn't run fast or far, but he showed up. 1 month in, he smiled mid-run. He hadn't smiled in weeks. 3 months later, he signed up for a 10K. He didn't care about his time. He just wanted to finish something. And he did. Sweaty and proud. Eli still runs at night, especially when it rains, because that's when it all began. Not to escape pain, but to remind himself he's still alive. Natalie was 39 when she decided to learn to swim. She had never touched deep water before. Her childhood was filled with excuses and fear. She told herself it was too late, too embarrassing, too hard. But one morning, she stood outside a public pool. Her heart raced, her hands trembled, but she stepped inside, signed up for beginner lessons. Everyone else looked younger, fitter, faster, more confident. She almost walked out, but a little girl smiled at her. That small smile held her in place. She got in the water, slowly. The first lesson, she only floated. The second, she kicked. By the fourth, she was gliding. Her instructor said, "You're stronger than you think." Those words echoed in her head. She practiced every morning before work, missed some, cried in others, but she kept showing up. 2 years later, she finished her first open water swim, 5 kilometers across a quiet lake. She didn't win, but she didn't care. She had beaten the voice that said too late, because courage doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just shows up with wet hair and shaking legs. Ben sat in the same coffee shop every afternoon, always at the corner table, always with a black notebook. People thought he was writing a book, but he was just writing thoughts, one sentence at a time, sometimes messy, sometimes clear, mostly personal, mostly private. He had been doing it for 11 months, after losing his brother to an accident. Ben couldn't speak much after that, but the pages listened. One day, the barista asked, "What are you writing?" He smiled and said, "A conversation I'm still having." She nodded, brought him a coffee on the house. A week later, she left a note on a napkin. "Your silence speaks louder than most voices." Ben read it 3 times, then wrote it down. He started leaving pages behind. One each Friday, folded, anonymous. People started reading them, sharing them, then printing them. A local magazine published 5, then 20. Ben never signed his name, but his voice returned. He still sits at the same table, still writes, still folds pages, because sometimes grief doesn't disappear. It just finds a new way to speak.